the people, it is another week, another episode, NFC Beast. Y'all know these are recorded, but we still want your comments. We still want you to check us out. We still want you to give us your opinions, right? So, this is your boy Cool McCain. I am joined beside me here by Mr. First Place, Couch Coach. What's going on, Coach?
Good, man. Hey, we're here once again, here mid-season. I'll just say we're here, just enjoying the ride. It is the NFC Beast and being in first place for maybe for the next couple days, but we shall see.
And below us, we've got the man in the living room. Well, in front of the brick wall, Mr. Flo himself. Flo, what's going on, man? Oh, he concentrating. That's some serious concentration. But I want to remind everybody, when we say the NFC East and we flip it to the Beast, you know the reason why we do that? I want every other division, all 7 of you, ask yourself a question. Does all 4 of your teams have a Super Bowl championship? You know what your answer to that question has to be? It has to be no, unless you're lying. So until you get like us, you can't be us. You can't be the best if you ain't even where we at. So once you get on our level, come holler at us. Until then, stay below where you belong. So with that being said, Flo, can you hear us? Flo over there, but we'll figure it out. All right, so hey, there's no need to waste any more time. It's time to get into it. So, according to NFL.com, our first review, because we only had 3 matchups last week because the Commanders and the Giants played each other. We had the Dallas Cowboys go to Atlanta and play the Atlanta Falcons. I know probably 5 or 6 of my friends that are Cowboys fans that went to the game. They did not leave the game happy, but they did go to the game. So, Flo, you are our Cowboys guy. Would you like to talk about your game first, or would you like to talk about your game last? Okay, he can't hear us. So he must have to hop out and hop back in. So while he's doing that, Couch, I'll let you set it off.
Okay.
Cowboys.
Yeah. And I think we're gonna have a theme for most of these games this of week 9. It's another one classic case of the the Falcons got ahead early and Cowboys just couldn't muster the comeback. Kirk Cousins 3 touchdowns in this game, and just obviously the injury to Dak Prescott. And then getting that touchdown in garbage time, but this Falcons team had a 27-13 lead in the 4th quarter, and the Cowboys just couldn't recover and lose 3 straight. And I mean, it's tough sledding in Dallas this year.
Yeah, it has been a lot of injuries. You just mentioned it. Dak Prescott is on IR, so that means he'll be missing at least 4 weeks. That's tough, right? Because if you're a team and you don't have your starting quarterback, that's difficult. And Dallas without Dak, that's going to be hard. They do have Cooper Rush there, who did play pretty solid for them in the past when Dak was out. So we'll see if he'll be able to come in and kind of steady the ship for 4, 6 weeks or however long. We'll see how that all plays out. But I think, like you said, Coach, I think you put it perfectly. I won't say too much because the Flo to kind of give his thoughts as a Dallas fan. But when the other team can jump on you and kind of get a lead, and you're playing from behind, and you kind of have to alleviate the run game because you're trying to get back into the game, you play into what a lot of defenses want to do to you, and also use a quarterback. You got defenders out. You got a lot of injuries. It's hard to kind of get up and play week in and week out when you have those things happen. It's one thing when you have the entirety of the team, you're not playing well, but when you're missing pieces, you probably could have gotten better in the offseason than you did, but you did have some pieces. But some of those are out. It's tough, man. It's tough. That would be for any team in the NFL. But Flo, can you hear us,
Yeah, can you hear me?
sir? We're talking about the Cowboys Falcons game. Take it away. It's all you, sir.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think Dak was having one of his better games up until he got hurt. Just for the fact that he was using his legs. I mean, all year for whatever reason, he hadn't been wanting to run, and he got a couple of first downs with running around, and I think he was looking better. And then he got injured. He got injured on one of the runs, I think, and then it got worse when he threw one of the passes. He felt something else, but I think he got injured on one of the plays before. But I mean, it is what it is. We've been injury plagued all year long, so it's hard, because what are you gonna do? You just got to do next man up, and we just ain't got that kind of depth. We lost DeMarcus Lawrence and Michael Parsons basically in the same game. We lost Samuel Williams before the season even started. We lost Nealon, I think, the second or third game. I think Kendricks has been banged up. We lost Deron Bland, I think, before the season or first game. I can't even remember, to be honest. And then Trayvon Diggs has been banged up. So our whole defense has been banged up. And that's part of the reason we've struggled. I know early on, we had most of those guys, or at least half of those guys. We lost some of them before the season started, but we just kept getting banged up. And we're under a new defensive coordinator, trying to get things going, and then you just keep losing bodies. And now Dak's gone. Cooper Rush, I think he's good for about 4 games. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, the Atlanta, I mean, Kirk Cousins surprised me because he's been playing pretty steady most of the season. He was a little shaky early on, but he had a pretty good game. The good news is they haven't asked him to do much. They've relied on the running game a little bit and haven't asked him to do as much. He only had 24 attempts that game. And so I feel like, they're playing well with him, relying on the run game a little more. I think we actually outrushed them that game, surprisingly. But, they haven't asked Kurt to do too much, right? Just enough. Have enough big plays, get it to your playmakers and that kind of stuff, and run the ball. And it's been successful so far. So we'll see if they can keep that going. But I don't know what we can do. We've been banged up. CD got banged up, in the last game, and so he was banged up that game. And of course, Dak got taken out. I think he's going to play this game, but we lost Cooks as well. And all other receivers beyond Cooks, they're all young guys who haven't had that much playing time. The 2 Jalen Brooks and Jalen Tolbert are young. Then we got the rookie Flournoy, who hasn't really played much. So it is what it is. I mean, I like the fight that they had, except for the, New Orleans game. For the most part, they've tried to come back and have made it competitive. Even the Ravens game, they came back and had a shot. They just couldn't make that third down stop that they really needed to come back in that game. And then, when they went 3 and out, I think in that game, they couldn't move the ball. We've had chances and we just come up short, when we've had those chances. I don't know. The Lions game kind of got out of control. But the Niners game, we had a chance, just like the Ravens game. Falcons game, we had a chance. But we just couldn't come up with enough plays. And so it is what it is. A little disappointed. I said I wouldn't be, I've said all year I wouldn't be definitely worried until we hit 6 losses. So that's the next game. Could get us to 6 losses. So then I'd be worried because 7, I think, there's no way I think we make the playoffs with 7 losses. So 6, I think we have a chance, but we only got one more to go. So
fair enough.
Yeah.
So, Couch, we'll go ahead and move on to that matchup between the New York Giants and the Washington Commanders, where you guys, I guess the best way I can say it is you kind of handled the Giants a little bit there. 27-22, closer game than I think most people thought. But I mean, you did get the job done, and the important thing is getting the job done. Like everybody wants to talk about all the, I've heard people say, "Oh, the Commanders they barely beat the Giants, and this team barely beat this team, and that team barely beats this team." The thing is, I mean, we're all NFL teams we're talking about here, right? If we're taking out like the Panthers, the Patriots, some of the teams that are really bad, um, most of the teams can be competitive most weeks, and even the teams that are not that good, sometimes it's a good matchup. Um, some situations, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, the coach shoots everybody in the foot. Yeah, these things happen. But Flo, we'll go to you, and then Couch Coach.
Washington Giants game. Yeah. I've been saying all year Daniel Jones has played pretty well. He's had a couple bad games but for the most part, he's played pretty good. I thought. I mean, he had a pretty decent game. Didn't have any picks. 2 touchdowns. They made a comeback late. I think the thing about the Giants, because they had a close game against the Giants early, and I think the Commanders, their offensive line was a question mark. They've been able to handle it for the most part. But if you have a strong defensive line, I think the Giants have a pretty good D line overall, and get some pressure on him, on Daniels. I mean, not on Daniels, on Joe. Yeah, Daniels. Sorry. Yeah, on him, and I think that that can help. Get some pressure on him, and get to him a little bit, even if they don't sack him, but hurry him up a little bit. And I think that's why the Giants have had a little bit of success, even though they lost both games. They were both close. I feel like that's kind of helped, even though, like I said, those are question mark with the Commanders coming in. Could that O-line, how was it going to play, and this and that. But they've done good. But against D-lines like the Giants, or they got a couple of dominant guys, I think that'll give the Commanders some trouble. And I think that's why they've kept them close. But overall, Commanders took care of business, did what they had to do. Jane Daniels didn't have a great game, but he had a pretty good game, solid. Most of the games he's been pretty solid. I mean, he's had, even the games that weren't great games that he's played, he's been efficient, taking care of the ball and done those things. So pretty impressive for a rookie, almost like C.J. Stroud did last year. Took care of the ball, did just what he needed to do when he, at times, and made the plays that he needed to make. And so he's been impressive. And like I said all year, I love Cliff Kingsbury with Jaden Daniels. I think that was a good marriage. And I know Cliff, he had talked about he wanted to be with the Bears up with Caleb Williams, and they didn't want him. So thankfully for the Commanders, they got Cliff Kingsbury, because he's very similar. I mean, they got similar styles, and he wanted to be up there in Chicago, but the Bears didn't want him, so Commanders got him. So but things are going well for them. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. So, yeah, I look at this game, obviously, almost similar to when we talked about the Dallas game, where the Commanders had a 21-7 lead going into halftime. Jay Daniels very efficient in that first half, connected to Terry McLaurin for 2 of those touchdowns. And then, obviously, the Giants kind of came roaring back. They had the 2 touchdowns, obviously. The question mark was essentially going for 2 on both of those possessions. Was a little odd, but both of those 2-point conversions kind of failed. So like that first that first touchdown, that would have just had them pretty much. It would have been 24-17, one possession game. Then I think Washington did a great job as far as killing the clock, maintaining the clock, and finding a way to win this game. Also, Seabird pretty much kicked that field goal to put the death nail in this team, and then obviously Giants get the touchdown. Failed on the 2-point conversion as well. I think when you just look at this football team, like you said, your sentiment is cool. Like people say, well, yeah, you barely beat the Giants, but this is a divisional game. We know each other very familiar. This is the only team that has played the Washington Commanders twice in the division so far, so they're more familiar than most opponents that they played all year. So you're going to get the best effort from that. And then also what Flo said, Daniel Jones, for some bizarre reason, he always have a great game against the Washington Commanders. It never fails. So it's just for him to have that ability to have a great game. And I think he had like 54
rushing.
Yeah, 50 rushing. Yeah, so 54 rush, yeah. So he was able to kind of move the ball on us as well, too, even in those drives where they really didn't get much as far as from a scoring aspect. But that's what it kind of tip off kind of what we'll be talking about later in the game. But this Washington Commanders team, they finish ball games. They don't, they're very methodical and very approach the game is something totally different, something that I haven't seen in years. And you just take care of business. It's a week by week. And something about this team is just like it's business as usual. It's almost like it's expected to have these type of performances, and you just go in and week out.
I definitely dig it, man. And I just want to quickly add, I think Washington is maximizing their opportunities, right? Like we talk about that a lot with different teams and different sports, but they do enough to win the games. It's not always pretty. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. But you're maximizing the opportunities when things are going well. You know, um, my team doesn't necessarily do a good job of that because they'll have times where take the field goal, take the points. We don't want the points. Forgive me, y'all. I've been stopped up all week, so I got a little cough going on, but just real crazy. But before we move on here, we're going to bring in another one of our panelists here. Sam is in the building. Sam, what's going on?
How's it going, fellas? Sorry, I'm late.
Wipe that camera with something that's all foggy in.
Like that's all I got, buddy.
That's all you got.
All right, Sam. So we are on the second game, the Commanders and Giants game. So any thoughts on the Commanders Giants game since you're just joining us, sir?
I mean, not really anything that Coach didn't already cover there. It sounded like he had a pretty good analysis of the game and probably a lot better than anything I could give, given that I didn't catch much of this one. It is kind of funny that Daniel Jones always seems to show up in these divisional games, however.
Yeah, I was going to say that also, the way Cliff has schemed up the offense, it seems like almost like the 49ers a little bit, that it doesn't matter who you put in the running back, they're going to have some success running the ball the way he has it schemed up, and, having Daniels be a potential, threat to run it. It seems like doesn't matter who you put in there, they're pretty successful running the ball. It's not like a dominant running game, but it's enough of a running game for what you need, to get your offense going. And he's able to scheme that up no matter who's in there, because you didn't have Robinson, but Rodriguez still got 52 yards. Eckler had 42 yards. And so Daniels had his 35. And so it's just like that offense is just running like a machine right now, no matter who's there running back.
Absolutely.
All right, so guys, we'll move on. Game number 3. Jacksonville Jaguars visited the Lincoln Financial. Philadelphia Eagles 23-28. First time this season, the Eagles scored in the first quarter, and it was a touchdown. Thanks to a botched punt reception. Well, thanks to a fumble on receiving the punt, we're able to get in good field position, and then we're able to go ahead and knock it in. 2 touchdowns for Hurts. Saquon Barkley, amazing play. We needed our defense to save us. Nakobe Dean had an interception. Zach Bond had an interception. The game should not have been that close. A lot of poor calls on not taking the field goal, not taking the extra point. I say the first one I understand because you got the penalty and they got you closer. But it's just a habitual thing of not taking the points. Um, the Eagles should have probably at least 10 more points. Not off of turnovers or anything, but off of bad play calling and not taking, your points. Because the thing is, you have a good kicker, but if you have a kicker and he kicks a field goal in the first quarter, you don't kick it again until near the end of the fourth quarter. It's hard for a guy to stay in the game when you have so many opportunities. I'm not, making an excuse for him. He missed the field goal, he misses it, but you keep him in the flow. You're kicking field goals when there's opportunities to. He probably makes that. And honestly, he probably didn't think you were going to kick a field goal. He was probably like, this dude going to probably go for it again like he always does. So, coaching, I'll say it like this. The Philadelphia Eagles, to me, have top 5 talent and bottom 5 head coaching. So, the talent can save some of the coaching blunders. But what has to happen is more games where you're just kind of sitting back and letting your coordinator do their job. I feel like on the offensive side, there's times where Sirianni's trying to exert himself. I think we got up, we had a pretty good lead. Then Sirianni's like, oh, yeah, I can go out there and call my plays. I also want to point out the quote-unquote missed 2-point conversion. He was in the end zone. But it is what it is. They reviewed it. They don't agree. But your eyes tell you he was in the end zone. Also, 8 of their points came off of a bogus fumble from Saquon. He got touched and went down. That shouldn't have been. But you know what? At the end of the day, we shouldn't have even been in those situations because we should have took all the points that we could get so that when fluky things happen, which they do from time to time in the game of football or sports in general, it doesn't affect you. So happy that the Philadelphia Eagles won the game. Why is even talking about Eagles League? Not a clean game from play calling. Also, if you're going to go for it on 4th and 3, and you got Saquon Barkley in the backfield, Jalen, get the ball to Saquon. Couch coach will go you, we'll go Flo, and then Sam, I'll let you close things up on the Eagles game.
Yeah, I mean, this is another game. Yeah, this is a theme where the Eagles jumped off to a big lead, as we talked about the teams that have won in Week 9 so far. Obviously, you guys had a 22-0 lead in the third quarter. Obviously, I think guys did have, arguably the best play of the season, the Saquon Barkley backwards leap. So you look at that standpoint. And then you just look at the fact of the Jacksonville Jaguars, the opponent in this matchup. They just couldn't overcome that big lead. And, Dougie P comes home back to Philly, and that was supposed to be somewhat of the storyline and kind of got buried in a couple of the storylines. But it's another one you just go out here and get the dub, and we're just one step closer for Dougie P to be home for Christmas because he might get fired next few weeks, so he might be home for Christmas.
I'll be home for Christmas. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what's going on in that locker room. I think, to me, Saquon Barkley has been the MVP for them. I mean, he should be a candidate. He's kind of kept that offense together. Whatever was happening in that locker room from last year, he's unaffected because he's a new guy. He doesn't know anything. He's just going in there to play. He wants to, do well. I mean, he's a great teammate. He just wants to be in there and work and take care of business, and he has been doing that. So to me, I mean, he should probably be in the talks for MVP. One of the top, at least top 5, maybe top 3. just because of what he's meant to this team. Because if you didn't have Saquon, if you didn't sign Saquon, I'd say you have a couple more losses on the docket without Saquon. He's had some big plays. I know that one he didn't catch, that maybe you can blame it on him, quote unquote, blame it on him because he dropped that one ball. But the rest, you've had 2 or 3 games where he's kind of saved you. A.J. Brown, and I know he's been banged up along with Smith. So they've been in and out of the lineup. Early on, Hurts was turning the ball quite a bit, but he's gotten better with that, been more efficient. And I think a lot of it has to do with Saquon. Just to depend on him to run the ball and you get that run game going. And, you don't need Jalen to do too much. Just, be efficient and just do what you need to do. So that offense has been gotten, better as the season has gone along. And I think Barkley was a big part of that. So defense has gotten a little better. To me, I don't know if that the Eagles have really beaten a good team. I guess you could say they beat Green Bay early on, first game, but then they lost to the Falcons, lost to the Buccaneers before they lost all their receivers. And then you beat the Browns, Giants, and Bengals, I guess was a good win, but they have 6 losses, so are they really a good team? So I don't know. We'll see. The schedule gets tougher. Let's see if they can continue to play the way they've been playing and be efficient with Jalen and let Saquon kind of be your offense, or the guy who kind of heads up your offense. You go off of him and let him be your catalyst for your offense. We'll see what happens. It was a good game, good win. Jaguars shouldn't have been able to come back. Luckily, Lawrence threw a bad ball, or that could have been a very bad situation. Losing to the Jaguars would have been ugly. A win's a win, but if you'd have lost that game, that would have been really ugly.
Yeah, I completely agree. We've talked ad nauseum about the fact that Nick Sirianni just doesn't seem to understand how to be a head coach, and this is just another example of exactly that. His playing calling situationally has been horrible. He seems to not understand the game flow, which shows up time and again in key moments. And honestly, we were very lucky to come out of this game with a win. It was disturbing to me that we were allowing Jacksonville to move the ball as easily as they were when I can't even name anybody past their wide receiver 2 on their offense. Evan Ingram's a solid tight end, but he didn't scare me when he was with the Giants. He doesn't scare me now, so I'm not sure how he found so much success against us. And, right now they have nobody at wide receiver. So it was honestly pretty surprising, concerning, moving forward. And honestly, if it weren't for those 2 interceptions by Lawrence, I think this could have very well been a win for Jacksonville. And that's saying a lot because the Jaguars are not a good team. And I think this might have been one of those games that was a really good indication of how far Sirianni is from being a quality head coach. And it's crazy to think that, just a couple of years ago, we were in the Super Bowl with the same guy as the head coach. I really think that there's some serious learning, reevaluation that needs to be done. And maybe he needs to, I'm almost scared to say this, but maybe he needs to look at the numbers more. Maybe he needs to take a little bit more of a clue from analytics, because it seems like a lot of times he's, trying to be too aggressive in times that it doesn't make sense. And other times he's just making head scratching decisions that the numbers don't back up on a very regular basis. So I'm really hoping that we can get this figured out going down the stretch. It's been 9 games already. We should be at a point where we're cleaning up a lot of these issues, and we just aren't, and that's honestly a hallmark of bad coaching. And I hate to say that because I think we've got some talented coordinators and position coaches. I was a big fan of Sirianni the first couple seasons, but if you don't adjust, you don't adapt, you're never going to find success in the NFL. And it seems like he has a lack of ability to evaluate his own coaching, his own abilities, and he doesn't seem to do a good job of really adjusting the game plan as we go or per the opponent. So, moving forward, I really hope we clean that up. As far as the Jaguars, man, Doug Peterson has got to go. It's crazy to say this quickly after he was hired, but they got to blow it up in Jacksonville. That team is so far from being a contender right now, even with a former top overall pick there at quarterback, that I'm not sure that there's any salvaging this situation. It's time for a new head coach, a new GM, and possibly it's time for Lawrence to go, honestly. Once again, just a really disappointing game by the Eagles. We're lucky to get that win and move to 6-2, but if we continue to play like this, we are not going to keep pace with Washington moving forward.
Hey, quick question for the Eagles guys. I know that they had talked about letting Kellen Moore run the offense, and it seems when your offense kind of turned around, but then it seems like he's getting involved still. Is it just that he's just just being intrusive on some of the play calling, and he's not letting Kellen Moore run it? I thought Kellen Moore was in charge of the offense, and he was going to be kind of hands off. I think that was one of the interviews he said he was going to be hands off, or I don't remember, but it just seems like he's starting to get more and more involved in some of that stuff.
All off season, we were told to Bill Goods that he was just going to let the coordinators do their thing. He was going to be like a general manager. He's interjecting himself. He's the one that's calling all of these stupid fourth down plays. You can actually tell the difference between who's calling plays. When it's a ridiculous play, the camera goes to Sirianni on the sideline. When we're running in rhythm, we're doing plays, we quick reps, hitting plays, quick passes by Jalen. The camera goes to Kellen Moore. The problem is interjecting itself into the offense.
Right. It seemed like at some point, I don't remember what game it was, that they're like that Kellen Moore is going to be more in charge of the offense now. I don't remember what game it was.
They always
and it
say
seemed
that.
Like your offense kind of started to look better, and then now it seems like he's getting more involved again.
Well, even in the games that we were playing well, he was still making some of the play calls because he can't. I don't think he has the ability to just let it go. I think he has to try to this works because I'm here. I'm Nick Sirianni, and I think he's just one of those guys. They're going to win in spite of Nick Sirianni. I think as the season goes on, hopefully Kellen Moore will start saying, "Look, man, we got to be more realistic. If I'm gonna call plays, I'm gonna call plays. If you want to say, hey, I want you to go for this fourth down, we can do that like once a game. We're not gonna get here and continually do this like all the time and shoot the team in the foot."
But does he have that leeway to do that?
If he doesn't, he shouldn't be there.
Okay.
If the offensive coordinator can't say, you need to stop messing with my offense and let me run the offense, then just fire him and let Nick Sirianni drag the team to the ground and get fired so we can get a better coaching staff.
That's fair.
I'm in, lockstep with Cool here. I mean, at some point, if you're Kellen Moore, why are you even still there? You're there to call plays. You're there to be an offensive coordinator. You're not necessarily catching the flack for the issues because obviously it's pretty clear when Nick Sirianni inserts himself. But at the same time, you were hired to do a job and you're not being allowed to do that job. So at what point do you tell him, hey, look, you either give me the ability to call the plays as I see fit or I'm going to move on because this is not the position for me to be in.
All right.
There you go. So guys, we'll move on. So what we'll do next, just to explain to everybody watching, is I'm going to recluse myself since we have two Eagles fans. But what we're going to do is just have everyone that's here go around. Just give your thoughts on your team at the midseason point. I think everybody kind of knows how I feel, right? Do I feel? You know how I feel. So I'll let everyone go around. We'll just do a free-for-all, so whoever wants to go can go. But we'll just basically, whatever thoughts you have, good, bad, etc., about your team as we kind of hit this sweet section in the midpoint of the schedule and what you expect going forward.
All right, I'll go ahead and jump in first. I know I kind of talked very heavily just a moment ago about Nick Sirianni, but it's because of necessity. At this point, he's what's holding this team back. Like Cool said, we're winning in spite of our head coach. I've never even heard that said before about a team that's 6-2, but here we are. It's crazy to think that we might actually be better off if we just, dare I say, fire Sirianni and moved on, with an interim coach as we stand right now. And, I would never recommend that for any team that's 6-2. But, ultimately we're 6-2 in spite of him, like Cool said, much much to my chagrin, like I said, I was a big fan of his early on, but it hasn't advanced. He was a first-year head coach, and it seems like we're watching a first-year head coach, 4 or 5 years into him being the head coach for the Eagles. And it's just one of those things where we're going to go as he goes. We've been able to pull out some games that we probably shouldn't have won because of a lot of his decisions. And I don't know that we can necessarily sustain that. I think it was this past week, there was a video that came out, and it was very quickly deleted by the NFL, that Lane Johnson, after Jalen Hurts threw his first touchdown, asked Jalen Hurts if he was having fun. And Jalen Hurts responded, "No, not really." And I can't blame him. If you're in a position where you're literally watching your head coach set you up to fail on a weekly basis, you have to question how that locker room operates behind the scenes. Are players voicing their opinion? Are they upset, or are they keeping their mouth shut because they're 6-2? And at what point does the near losses add up to the point where finally he loses the locker room? I don't think we're that far away from that point currently. And like I said, it's time for somebody to stand up and tell him it needs to change. Whether that's somebody in the front office, whether that's a player who has some pull, whether it's his coordinators, somebody has to step up and make it a point to tell Sirianni there are things that need to be fixed. And it's in his best interest to fix these things. So, I mean, it's really going to be a sign of where he's going to go as a head coach going forward. Honestly, it wouldn't shock me to see us go 500 the rest of the way. And that's sad to say. I mean, that would still give us a 10-win season. It'd still put us in the playoffs most likely. But that should tell us everything we need to know down the stretch. And, I think this could be a scenario where we see a head coach potentially on the hot seat, even if he does make the playoffs. I don't want to say that's necessarily Super Bowl or bust this season for the Eagles, but it should be. We have all this money invested on our offense. We've had a lot of players come in on defense. We've had multiple different coordinators that we were told were going to improve the situation. It's time to show us. Or, for lack of a better term, put up or shut up. That's the way I'm looking at the rest of the season, because at this point, it's been extremely frustrating to be an Eagles fan every week as we shoot ourselves in the foot in key moments. It's only a matter of time before, like I said, this catches up to us and we start losing. And I have a feeling it's going to come very soon. Those division games are coming down the pike. And, I don't think that right now we're going to beat a team like Washington. I don't know that we're necessarily going to, maybe with Dak out, we have a better chance against Dallas and, kind of their struggles recently. But, even then, I mean, Cooper Rush is a solid quarterback. He's not the worst in the world. So, I mean, that's another thing. We don't have an easy schedule down the stretch. So, like I said, put up or shut up time. It's time we make some changes. Hopefully not some drastic changes, but that might be what needs to happen.
I guess I'll go first. Okay.
Since you're all giddy this season.
Okay. I mean, hey, why not? Yeah. It's the best start since 1996. So 7-2. It's just different. Obviously, new owner, new head coach, just a new everything. Jay Daniels, second overall pick in the draft. You look at this team, offensively, the third best offense in the league, averaging nearly 30 points a game, third in rushing yards per game. This is just a different team, and they are winning football games in various fashions. And I'm more proud of certain wins, especially against Carolina. I know people say, "Oh, you beat Carolina 40-7." But in previous situations, this team would have struggled with a Carolina Panthers or like an Arizona Cardinals team on the road. This just lets me know this is just a different team, and just have a business-like approach. Everything is just done with class. Even, Gerald Green's retirement, his jersey being retired, was handled way better than other guys who jerseys been retired, and it's just a different vibe, and it's just something where it's just, you know, it is a great destination. And I'll say Adam Schefter tweeted the other day that people want to come to Washington. I've never heard that. I'm 40 years old. I've never heard someone talk about wanting to go to Washington since 1992. So it is a great time to be a Commanders fan, and it's about damn time, and I'm gonna enjoy this.
All right. I figure you're pretty giddy this season, but yeah, I'm happy for you. Anyway, yeah, not really, but yeah, I mean, hey, everybody gets their what is it, their time in the sun or whatever to shine. So this is your time right now. I was actually pretty upset when Jane Daniels and then Cliff Kingsbury was going to be the OC. I was really ticked off because I knew something like this was going to happen, or something similar. If not this year, maybe next year. So we'll see. Hoping for a sophomore slump next year already. But yeah, so as far as the Cowboys, I feel like it's just been one of those seasons. I mean, I've said it earlier, you know, we've been riddled with injuries on defense. And even on offense, you know, we lost Brandon Cooks, and we have some young receivers, but they're not Brandon Cooks. I mean, he's a veteran, you know, and he's still, I think he runs, you know, much cleaner routes than these other guys. They're young, you know. Tolbert, you know, did have a great play against the Steelers, but they're still young and learning. And Brooks, and we have the rookie that I mentioned before. It's just rough. I feel like 3 of the games we had a chance to win, and we just didn't come up with enough plays. Against the Ravens, we didn't come up with, you know, we just did that one drive, you know, at the end. We didn't do anything with it. You know, with the 49ers, we had a chance. Come back at the end. Didn't do nothing. Same thing with it. It seems like we're just falling short, you know, especially on offense. And a lot of it has to do probably with, you know, we didn't get a solid running back. You know, I thought Rico Dotto would start to, you know, kind of shine a little more. But at the same time, we have a couple of rookies on offense. You know, Tyler Guyton and Cooper Beebe, and two rookies on offense. Even though if they're good, it's going to be a struggle to have continuity in that offensive line. I think that's part of our struggles on the O-line. Then Tyler Guyton got hurt, has been banged up, and so we've just been thin everywhere. You know, we don't have a lot of depth on any position really. You know, once our starters, you have a starter go out, we don't have a lot of depth right now, and so at least not quality experience depth. And it is what it is. I always said the whole season I'm not going to worry until we get 6 losses. So we're getting close to there. So I might be starting to worry after next week, but we'll see. But it is what it is. You have to just try and Cooper Rush, I think, like I said earlier, he's good for about 4 games, 3 or 4 games where he'd be solid. I think we'll have to depend on the run, hopefully more, and you know, force us to run it more. I don't want to put the game in his hands. I just want him to be efficient, and so we'll see what happens. Dak's obviously he's on IR, so he's going to be out for at least 4 weeks. We need to go 3-1 in these 4 weeks, so if we want to stay in any chance for the playoffs, so we'll see what happens, and hopefully Micah comes back, D-Law comes back, get a few banged up guys that come back in the next few weeks, maybe this week, maybe next week, but we'll see what happens. A little disappointing season. It's easy to bang on the Cowboys. You know, all the haters like to bang on us and, you know, make fun of us and all that stuff. But I mean, they don't see that we have a lot of injuries. You know, we've been banged up. So, but it is what it is. You just got to move on. You got to tough it out and try and make the best of it.
I feel it. So we'll move on here, guys. So got some games happening this week. I'm sure we want to talk about. And then we've got a Thursday very interesting matchup. I think everybody in the division will agree. I think the Thursday game will be an interesting matchup. But before we get there, Got to get through Sunday. So let's do it. All right. So Giants, Panthers. This is the best excuse why we don't need all these games overseas in the morning. I'm sorry. If I'm not a Giants fan, I'm not a Panthers fan. I am not getting up to watch the Giants and Panthers play in London.
I don't think Scrub's getting up to
Germany,
watch
wherever
the
they're
Giants.
playing. Yeah, I mean, if I'm not one of those, I'm definitely not getting up. I may not get up if I am a fan, but if I'm not, I'm definitely not. For me, I don't think the Giants are playing well, but I think the Panthers are just. There are certain teams that just don't win a lot, and if they do win, it's because they're playing a team that's really worse than them. And I think that Saints team that the Panthers beat last week, which I did call, uh, just wasn't as good. I think this Giants team does have some limitations, but one of the things that you do to get yourself back on track is you play teams that you should beat, and you go out there and get a win. And I have a rule: you're playing against the Panthers, I'm picking you unless you're about 2 or 3 teams. The Giants are just outside of that list, so I'm going to go Giants in this game. And they might put a good little whooping on the Panthers too. We'll see. Sam, what do you think?
Yeah, I think you can go ahead and chalk up a win for the Giants this week. I think it's going to be a big, probably a big margin of victory, honestly, which is kind of shocking to say with the way this Giants offense has looked. But Tyrone Tracy is definitely hitting his stride recently. So, I definitely think the Panthers are going to have too much, or the Giants are going to have too much on offense for the Panthers to handle. And they're just a dumpster fire right now in terms of the Panthers. Cool knows he lives out there, so he gets to see it firsthand. But they're terrible. As much as I hate to say it, I was really rooting for Canales to find some success there, but I don't think it's coming this season. Another team that really probably needs a ground up roster rebuild. The Giants, on the other hand, I think Daniel Jones has some momentum going into this week, and maybe he can build off of that. But he's another quarterback that's very hot and cold, so this could kind of go either way for him. But I still think the Giants are going to come out of this with a victory and slowly creep their way back into the conversation in our division.
Okay. I don't know which way we're going.
No, you good.
Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, I can't agree with Sam, but except for I think it won't be a big margin of victory. But all their wins have been fairly close, so I think they're gonna play better. And like you said, Panthers shouldn't win this game. It is kind of a dumpster fire over there. I think a lot of the Giants' problems has just been inconsistency, like you said. They definitely could have won that first Commanders game for sure. I think that was a definite one of the ones that got away. But even the last 2 games, the Steelers are a pretty good team, and they were in that game for the most part. In the last game they were in with the Commanders. So I feel like the last 2, they could have won either one of those. And that first Commanders game definitely could have been a W. So, a couple of wins here, a couple of things bounce your way for them. They could be, 4-5 pretty easily, and still kind of be in the hunt for a playoff spot. But I think the Giants, and I think, like I said, Daniel Jones gets he's the easy button, it's all his fault. But he's had pretty good games, for the most part. He's had a couple of bad ones, but most of his games he's been pretty consistent and played better for the most part. And I think they're gonna win this game. I don't want to say fairly easily, but I think they're going to be in control of the game for the most part.
Couch is on you, bro.
And I did like that. Our guy Bryce Young did get a win last week. So, will he build that momentum? I don't think so. I think that's like a flash in the pan moment for the Carolina Panthers, unfortunately. And like Flo said, the Giants been knocking at the door. They're another team that, if you, like you said, they could be a team that's right at 500 or hovering over 500. They just haven't, had, the ability to kind of finish these games. But Carolina Panthers playing them, I definitely think they'll find a way to win that football game. I definitely think the Giants will win this game for sure.
I feel it. All right, so we'll move on to the next game. And we are getting the schedule from NFL.com. So the next game, time-wise, 1 p.m. as well, on Sunday. CBS, 6-2 Steelers at the 7-2 Commanders. So, Couch, would you like to go first or would you like to go last?
I'll go first. Obviously, another great matchup. Two teams on 3-game winning streaks. A matchup I'm normally always torn when Russell Wilson comes home. I call him the prodigal son. He's from my area, Richmond, Virginia. He's a 2-time Richmond Times-Dispatch Player of the Year. Only 2 guys in the 50-something years of plus years of our newspaper has been a high school player of the year. So they coming in, momentum, like I said, 3-game win streak. He's been playing very good since he returned from injury. Still, the team is definitely a very, they are what they are. And now, like that, so coming into this game, I definitely want to see like the running game as well for the Commanders, and also like Flo mentioned earlier, where you have that running back committee. Obviously, Brian Robinson is going to be out, unfortunately. So now you have guys going to step in. Chris Rodriguez, definitely a huge shot to him. Gave up his 23 jersey to our newly acquired cornerback, Marshawn Lattimore. So I definitely think Austin Eckler will have a good game in that one. And then you look at Jaden Daniels, see what he can do, and then what his offensive line is going to do as far as to contain, and almost kind of to piggyback the flow point, where now you have guys on the Pittsburgh Steelers. You have Watt. You have those guys that definitely can infiltrate an offensive line, almost cut them like a slice of like a knife through a butter knife, essentially through an offensive line. So you look at it, they have that ability to kind of penetrate that line and can potentially get to Jay Daniels. Just want to see what this line does, but and then now special teams might be affected. Now you're looking at Seabird is potentially being out, Gaza coming to Ashburn to work out to be the field goal kicker, but hey, when Seabird came his first game, he kicked 7 field goals and won a game. So maybe whoever we get who kicks on Sunday could potentially have that type of input. But I definitely think that the Commanders will continue their win streak, 4 games win, and then 4-game win streak, and then let's go to the league and get hype.
All right. Well, as a Cowboys fan, I have to pour water on the Washington fan for a little bit. He's running a little too high for me. He's smiling a little too much. So I'm going to have to bring pour some water on his party. But no, for real, I think, this is really the first test you've had since the Ravens, and you lost that game. I don't think you've really played anybody. Buccaneers, I guess, and the Ravens are your 2 teams. I guess you could put the Bengals in there, but they've lost 6 games. They haven't beaten anybody either. So I don't know if we can really put that. Maybe at the beginning of the season we could have. But all the other teams haven't been very good. The Giants, that was a close game. They probably should have lost that first game. Is it against the Giants? I can't remember. Yeah, the first game. But anyway, that you played against the Giants, they very well could have lost that game. The Bengals game was a shootout. Bengals have lost to everybody, seems like, in shootouts of some sort. The Cardinals, they're up and down. Sometimes they're good. They go as Kyler Murray goes. If Kyler Murray's not having a good game, they're not going to have a good game. So I feel like this is kind of the first test you've had since the Ravens, and you lost that game. So Steelers are solid on defense. Russ has looked good. Let's see how he continues to look in this game. I went back and forth because I looked at the schedules, like they haven't really beaten anybody. Even though the quarterbacks played well. The rookies played well. Who have they really beaten? You know, I guess the Bengals, but they're not very good. You know, they played the Cardinals up and down. Panthers, not very good. Bears, so-so. They got a pretty good defense, but they very well could have lost that game. The Giants, we all think they're not very good. I mean, who have they beaten? So I just feel like this is going to be the first test since the Ravens, and I think that I'm gonna say the Steelers edge them out. I'm going to say Steelers edge them out, not to pour water on him, but I'm just, trying to be objective here and saying this is going to be a tough one. And we'll see what happens. I think it's good that you're at home, though. I think that's going to help you.
I actually think this game is a better matchup on paper than it will be during the game. I think Washington is a much better team than Steelers are currently. I know Russell Wilson's playing great. Just based on the way he's played over the past couple seasons, I don't think that's going to continue down the stretch. Maybe I'm wrong. We'll see. I think a big reason the Steelers are finding so much success right now is their kicking game is out of this world. They've only missed one field goal all season long, and their defense is unreal right now as well. So, I mean, if Washington can come into this game and protect the football and not allow the Steelers defense to create turnovers and excess pressure on Jalen Daniels, I think they come out of this with a victory. And I don't want to say that it's going to be a blowout because that's not accurate. I think it will be a close game, but I do see Washington winning by at least 7 points. I personally think Jalen Daniels is one of those players that is going to give the Steelers pass rush fits. I know they have TJ Watt. They've got a lot of talent there around him now. But realistically, Daniels, I think, is a different kind of player that they haven't really played too much this season outside of Lamar Jackson, which obviously that they do have a lot of experience against Lamar. Don't get me wrong.
Okay.
But at the same time, I mean, I just don't think that and maybe it's just a gut feeling, but I don't think the Steelers are going to put up the fight that everybody thinks they are in this game. And again, that's just me. I haven't watched a whole lot of Pittsburgh Steelers games, if I'm being completely honest with everybody watching. But I have watched a lot of Washington, and I have a lot of faith in what they're doing this season. And right now, I don't see Pittsburgh being able to keep up in this game.
Wow.
I mean, could the Steelers come in, get some turnovers? We get a bad game from the Commanders and they lose? Absolutely. Do I expect it to happen? No, I don't. You have to look at several different things. And
they're number 4 against the rush.
Flo made the point about who have you played. I mean, I simply feel like this about the who have you played argument. If we can go out and make our own schedule, then that makes sense. If we're saying, oh, we don't want to play the good teams because we're scared of them, that's one thing. NFL teams don't make their own schedule. In college, you can kind of throw you some bunny games in there. You got to play your conference, but you can throw you some bunny games in the NFL. It's already there. It's already laid out. Dallas was supposed to be better. Cincinnati was supposed to be better, right? A couple of teams that the Commanders have already played were supposed to be better. Anyway, and it is what it is. But I think when you look at what this team is doing, you look at Adam Lattimore. If he's healthy, not saying he's good, he's an all-world corner at this point in his career, but he's a guy that's going to make that room better. One of the things about adding veteran players at certain positions is it helps the young guys develop, right? You want to add guys that maybe can still perform to a certain level, but they're going to help that group get better. And we can all agree, and I know Couch Coach will agree with me, the Commanders secondary needs some work. So you got coaches telling you what to do, and I'm sure the coaches are not just sitting back and saying, I'll do whatever. But now you bring a guy in that's a veteran that can help that team, help them prepare better, help them on the sideline to see what they should be looking at when you're watching the other team's defense. That's the things we need to be doing, fellas. Like, having that is invaluable when you haven't had that. So I think that's going to help that Commander secondary. And it may not be something we see this week, but I think over the course of the weeks, that's going to help the Commander secondary. We've seen the Steelers struggle offensively, whoever's at quarterback. Like, they're not out there world beating and just dogging anybody, right? They've won some games, but a lot of it is their kicker, running the ball with Najee Harris. A lot of it hasn't been put on Russell Wilson, and it wasn't put on Justin Fields when he was starting. Now Russell looks better in limited reps in 2 games, right? So now he's been out there a couple of games. You kind of see what you got. If you want to make an argument for the Steelers, the addition of Mike Williams, he should be playing this week. That gives him a legitimate number 2 receiver. So the top 2 corners for the Commanders are going to have guys they have to guard who should be able to make a play at any time. If we get the Mike Williams that they had when he was with the Chargers, the Mike Williams before his quarterback just really hated on him all off season at the beginning of the season, right? Then that's a guy who could be a difference maker in this game. But I believe the Commanders are going to win this game, but I think they're going to have difficulty. I don't think they're going to walk in there and dog them. I think it's going to be a close game. I think the Commanders are going to be able to make things happen. When you're riding high, when you're winning, when everything's kind of clicking for you, you win these games that are kind of like 45, 55, 50-50, 60-40. Those are the type of games you win if you want to be a better team in the NFL. I think the Commanders are headed in that direction, and I think they're going to get a win. All right, so we will go on to the next game. And of course, this is going to be 4:25 p.m. I'm sure it's going to be on nationwide. We'll finally be on nationwide because they stole all of our nationwide
You're
games.
welcome.
But we are playing the one team that they love to keep on, no matter if they're like 1-15.
You're welcome.
So 6-2 Eagles at 3-5 Cowboys. So Flo, let's go this way. You go first. Couch coach
Okay.
Sam, and then I'll finish. Is that good with everybody, or Sam, you want to go last?
I'm cool either way,
Why do
man.
I got to start out? Let Couch Coach go first.
Okay,
Then
well
I'll
then
go.
couch coach.
Yeah.
Flo doesn't want to start.
Yeah. Okay. This is going to be a very interesting matchup. Obviously, it's the NFC East game. I'm curious as far as Cooper Rush and how he will play in this game. I definitely think he will have an opportunity to do some stuff on his deep Philly defense. So it's kind of one of those where I know a lot of people on the surface going to say, oh, this could be a blowout. They're playing with a backup quarterback, but we all know about these divisional games. It is what it is. But I definitely think that the Eagles will prevail in this game. I'm kind of one of those things where the Eagles kind of looking past this matchup potentially. I think you might have a situation where they might be looking past this and looking forward to Thursday. Could that be a possibility in this game in a sense? And but I definitely think the Eagles will win this game for sure.
Me? Okay. All right. So obviously our starting quarterback is back. Everybody's made a big deal about Cooper Rush being 4-1 in his starts and stuff, but we're still banged up on defense. Micah might be back. I don't know if that's 100% for sure he'll be back. D-Law's still out. We still got a bunch out on defense. I don't think Bland's even coming back. I wish he would be back to be on the other side of Diggs. That would help us out. But I don't think he's coming back either. So we'll see what happens. If Micah comes back, I think that'll help because maybe we can get a little bit of a pass rush. And I think the only thing that gives me hope with Cooper right now is that, we're down the receiver, at least one. I think CeeDee's going to play, but, Cooper plays with the second team and the third team. He knows these receivers, that they're having to come in and step in. So he's got a rapport with them and some chemistry. So I feel like that's a plus that, he's been able to play with them probably most of the, taking a lot of the second team. And we got a lot of the second team out there right now. So I think that's a plus for Cooper Rush. And I just as long as they don't try and put too much on Cooper, stick to the run. And, we just got to cut down on the big plays. Don't give away, big, easy touchdowns. or even long drives, that end in a touchdown. We just got to make a few stops here and there, maybe get a lead, and that way we don't have to play from behind. We haven't been very good coming from behind. We've lost at least 3 games, even though we came close. We can come, and then we lost 2 in a blowout, when we got behind. So I don't want us to get behind. I think that's the key for us is maybe get 10 points up, but at least score first, whatever that has to be, and then make a couple of stops towards the end of the game, and maybe we can pull this one out. I'm going to hold out hope this time for the Cowboys to win this game at home. We haven't won at home, so we have a tough – usually we play better at home, and we haven't been. So hopefully this will be one of the times that we kind of get that home advantage back a little bit. And, it's one of those games where, like you said, like I was just saying, expected it just because, we're having the backup, Cooper Rush that we're going to lose. But the divisional game is one of those games that we might tend to win. And hopefully Sirianni gets overly involved in the offense and we pull this game out.
Which he probably will. Let's be honest. I got to be honest. I'm concerned about this game because in all the time that Cooper Rush has been in Dallas, the Eagles have only played him once, one start. He threw one pass in another game like 6 years ago or something like that. So they haven't seen a whole lot of him firsthand. So I know that can work in both directions. Obviously Cooper Rush has not seen the Eagles defense much as well, but I actually think this is going to be a game that he's probably going to do fairly well in, given the fact that the film isn't necessarily the film's out there, but they haven't necessarily seen him firsthand, like I said. So this is one of those games that scares me a lot. The Cowboys are hungry. They know their back's against the wall. They know they have to start winning games now. Otherwise, they're going to be out of the race in the division soon. And, they may still be in the wild card race, very, very slimly in the wild card race there if they lose this game. But they know that their playoff hopes are on the line. And more importantly, Mike McCarthy knows his job is very much on the line at this point. Future Dallas Cowboys offensive coordinator Cooper Rush is probably going to have a great game in this one. And I personally think that, he's a solid backup. There's a reason this guy's been in the NFL for 7 seasons. There's a reason Dallas continues to keep him around. And it's not because he's good at holding a clipboard on the sideline. He obviously does enough for them to think that he is good enough to be their top backup. And Dallas is one of those teams that when they like a quarterback, they keep him. So, I definitely have faith in his ability to come out slinging the ball and, in that sense. And I don't have a ton of faith currently in our ability to stop opposing offenses. We've allowed some teams that are arguably a lot less talented than the Cowboys currently score 20-plus points on us several times this season. And that's a concern as well. So, there's multiple different facets of this game. I know our pass rush has done a little bit better in the past couple games, but that's a factor as well. If we can't get pressure on Cooper Rush, we are not going to be able to slow down this offense regardless of who's playing wide receiver. I know the Cowboys have been very banged up all season, but correct me if I'm wrong, Trevon Diggs will be playing in this one?
I think he's going to play, yeah.
Okay, so that's another factor as well. A.J. Brown, I know he's not necessarily 100%. He's been banged up all season long. That's a concern as well. If Trevon Diggs could shut down A.J. Brown, this game is going to change dramatically. Granted, we still have Smitty out there out wide, but there's some definite concerns there on our end as well due to the injuries as well. Although we have everybody active for this game, they're not 100%, and that's going to be a factor. So, I don't really have a ton to add compared to what Flo just said, but I just think that anybody who's necessarily writing off the Cowboys because Dak's on IR, I think they're moving a little bit too quickly on that thought.
So, to confirm, we do have everyone that should be playing but Ben Van Sumeren. He did participate on Friday, so more than likely he'll play, but not 100% guaranteed that he'll play yet. Jalix Hunt, another new player, is going to be getting some reps. Darius Slay will be back. Nolan Swift will be playing. Devontae, AJ, Dallas Goedert will be making his return to the field. He's been out for a few weeks, and Calcaterra has elevated himself in his absence to a guy that I feel like Jalen trusts now. Jahan Dotson, big catch last week. I feel like they're kind of getting that trust factor down. Um, you know, defensively, the last time that we played Cooper Rush, we did beat him, right? We did beat him. Defense is different now. A lot of new players are playing, like just since last season. Zach Bond is a new player. He wasn't there last year. Um, C.J. Gardner-Johnson wasn't there last year. Quinyon Mitchell wasn't there last year. Cooper DeJean wasn't there last year. Sidney Brown was out injured. Isaiah Rodgers wasn't there last year. Oren Burks wasn't there last year. Jeremiah Trotter Jr. wasn't there last year. So a lot of guys on the defensive side of the ball are new, and it takes time for gelling. But if you look at the defense, you think about the fact that even last week, right, we did give up 22 points, but that wasn't a fumble by Saquon. That shouldn't have been a touchdown. But it is what it is. But when we're looking at it, there's not a lot of points that this defense is giving up, and they are making big plays. Different guys are stepping up and making big plays for this defense on a weekly basis. You add that into the fact that pretty much everybody outside of Jordan Mailata, who is on IR, is going to be, that everyone who's healthy, let me say it that way, everybody who can play this down on IR is going to be playing. You also think about the fact that this is a divisional game. And if there's one guy that the Dallas Cowboys don't want to see in a divisional game, it's not Jalen Hurts. It's a guy that Flo itself was even talking about earlier. Saquon Barkley. He's out there. He's running the ball. He's running through everybody. He's doing reverse jumps over people. He's out there. He's going to get his carries because Kellen Moore is going to allow him the opportunity, but that's one time so far. There's one more time that
he does it again.
You haven't ever done it.
If he does it again this year, I'll give him
one time any running back in the history of the Dallas Cowboys ever did it. So I'm just saying. Trailblazer. I mean, this man, every time he gets the ball in his hands, he can make a big play, especially behind this offensive line. Jalen Hurts has been using his legs lately. I said 2 years ago when he was in the conversation for MVP candidate, for him to be in that conversation, for him to be the best version of Jalen Hurts, he's got to run the ball and he's got to throw the ball. When the pocket collapses and there's nobody open quickly, you run. If there's a certain play that's set up and it may take a few seconds, that's fine. But if you're looking for quick hitters and they're not there, run the ball. If you're looking down the field and everybody's covered, run the ball, right? RPO should be used a little bit, not too much, but a little bit. It's a different wrinkle that can be thrown in. Dallas won't give up. This is a divisional game. This is not going to be a blowout. This is going to be a hard-earned victory. And, I'm a big proponent of it doesn't matter if you win by 40 or you win by 4. You win the game. You play to win the game. You can talk about vanity points and who looks better when they win by 20. But, it's the last time I checked, winning by 1 point or winning by 100 points, you still win the game, and that's what matters. So as long as they can win the game, which I think Philadelphia will do,
I'll take a 1 point.
This should be a good matchup. But I'll tell you what, this is going to be a matchup of willpower, right? Because we cannot have players, but it's a divisional game. This is one of the bigger rivalries, I feel like, and they're going to come out and they're going to put it on each other. That's going to happen. The reason it'll be close is because of Sirianni. I think he'll make a couple of bad calls because that's what he does, and we're always gonna, just work into the game.
Come on, Sirianni. Be you, Sirianni. Be you.
But it won't be enough for the Cowboys to win.
Take charge of this team.
It won't be enough for the Cowboys to win the game, though. So,
we'll see.
It's
been close. Almost lost to the Jags. Remember?
I mean, I find it funny, right, that you'll say stuff like that, right? But I mean, there's no team that goes out there and blows everybody out.
Everybody,
No, Yeah, so barely winning is still winning. Like you're sitting there like, oh, you lost to the Jags. We beat the Jags. You just got through hearing me say, and you agreed at the time, ironically, that a win is a win, whether it's 1 point or 100 points. So,
Right.
I mean, I guess you want to have it both ways, and if that's how you want to roll, bro, like,
No,
hey,
I'm just saying.
do you? I'm just saying.
Hey, I'll take the 1
we're
point
gonna
win and let Sirianni beat
It's
Sirianni.
going to
Let
be
him beat
closer
him.
than it should because of Sirianni. Just like last week was closer than
Thank
it
you.
should be because of
Thank
Sirianni.
you. Well, I
Superiority of
appreciate that.
talent is there, though.
Tell him I
The
said thank you.
superiority of talent is there. Philadelphia has all of their weapons on defense. The defensive rookie of the year is playing corner for the Philadelphia Eagles. His name is Quinyon Mitchell. If you don't know it now, you will know it by the end of the game. So one of the guys that probably would be his competition if he had started out playing is playing in the slot now most of the time in Cooper DeJean. So there's a lot of really great defensive players on this team. And don't forget they got a coordinator who is going to use them to the best of their abilities. An OG, not one of these new guys, an OG. So it will be close because of Nick in the division, but that doesn't mean you're gonna win. That just means you'll be able to come up here next week and say, "Oh, well, you barely
Man,
beat us, you barely beat the Jags, and you barely
you
beat this
better
team."
hope we
And
lose.
all barelys. I don't better hope anything because whether we win
Okay.
or whether we lose the game, if we being 100%, we're going to the playoffs. You're probably not.
Okay.
Keep it up.
Okay.
So there's that. So we do have one more game that we still have to talk about, and that'll be Thursday night. I believe it's November 14th.
Gotta skip ahead.
Financial. We'll be playing the Washington Commanders.
Smoke.
This will be a really interesting game. I'm gonna go first. Right? Because we know who Flo's gonna pick. Right? We know who Flo's gonna pick.
You don't know I'm
gonna go first. Yeah, we know you're gonna pick. So this is a matchup of two teams that are playing really well, right? And I mean, we can talk about you haven't beat this team, you haven't played anybody, right? So let's look at it this way. Let's say the Eagles and the Commanders both win Sunday. The Commanders now have a quote unquote good win because they beat the Steelers. The Eagles don't have a good win if they beat the Cowboys, do we? I mean, they're not. They don't have a lot. You don't have a lot of wins. You have guys out. You said so yourself. I'm not. This is not like me trying to take a shot. This is me just being honest. Right. You're what 3-6 right now. So you're 3-6. So even if we beat you, no one's gonna say, "Oh, they beat the Cowboys." Now the Eagles are a good team. Nobody's gonna do that. They would say, "Oh, the Commanders beat the Steelers. The Steelers are a good team, so the Commanders have a good quality win." So then let's say, what if the Commanders beat the Eagles? Oh, the Eagles, they only can beat bad teams. They can't beat good teams. What if the Eagles beat the Commanders? Then, the Commanders, they beat the Steelers, but then they couldn't even beat the Eagles. Like, it's going to be a game where one of the teams is going to get some flack for losing, whether it's by a point, whether it's by 15 points, whether it's by 21 points. The key for the Philadelphia Eagles is going to be ball control. Against this Washington team, you give them the least amount of opportunities as possible, and you do that by controlling the clock. You get them to turn the ball over on defense, or you get them to go 3 and outs if you don't actually get turnovers. You use the young defenders to cover everyone. You keep Avonte Maddox off the roster, but he probably will play, unfortunately, a few snaps, and he'll probably get burnt in all those. But the main thing is going to be the defense and ball control. Hurts has turned around a turnover thing. A lot of those turnovers were, without A.J. Brown. He's not 100%. I would agree with Sam. He's not 100%. But here's the crazy part about even not being 100%. When A.J. Brown walks on the field and lines up, the defense is paying attention. Whether he catches the ball 1 time or 15 times. When he's on the floor, on the field, you're paying attention to him. So that allows everyone else to get opportunities. Calcaterra stepped up. Goddard will be back. Hopefully, he'll probably be on a snap count the first games, especially since we have one Thursday. If we can not turn the ball over, if we can run the ball and control the time of possession, if our defense can play and not give up a lot of big plays, and we can score enough points where we don't be like the Bears, then I think we have a really good chance to beat the Commanders. Now, I will say this. Going into the season, I think the Commanders are going to be second in the division. I picked us first and the Commanders second. I don't think either one of us sweeps the other one. I think this is the year where the Commanders are going to beat us one time. It may be this game. It may be when we go to DC. But I think we'll split. I'm going to pick us to win this game because we are on a roll right now. And if we can win this game, we can finally obtain first place in the division. So I'm going to pick us to win this game. But I do admit I think the Commanders are the one that we're going to split with this year. Flo, go ahead. I know you got something to say. Go ahead, sir.
No, I thought you said you're on the road. I thought it was a home game.
No, I said I think we will lose to the Commanders on the road when we play them the second
on the road.
time.
Okay.
That's what I said. Yeah.
Okay.
So, Couch, there's two Eagles guys here. I went first. You want to go last? When you want to go?
I can go now. Yeah, I can. Yeah, I discussed it. This is, like we said, this is a Thursday night. All eyes on these two teams.
Mm-hmm.
This where we've always, even regardless of our stature, we play the Philadelphia Eagles. They have, in previous administrations, almost been like our Super Bowl as far as they were the team. When you think about when we last won the division in 2020, they were the one that kind of rose out of the NFC East picture in this decade. We'll put it this way. In this decade, as far as the ones that have kind of, so they have been somewhat the standard of the NFC East in this decade. So we've always played to you guys, regardless if we're, 4-13, 7-8-1, or whatever. We've always have played this team tough. And I think going into this matchup, like you said, we don't really know what's going to happen on Sunday, but if we can kind of project, both these teams potentially could be going into win streaks. If we come in 8-2, y'all are 7-2. We're like the flavor of the month. Like everyone's loving what's going in Washington. Versus Philly, it's just that team that say, hey, that could be fuel for their fire, because saying to themselves like, hey, people are looking at this team. We're the ones that essentially have been the torch carriers of the division of this decade. I know Dallas have had like 12-5 seasons, and they've been in the mix as well too. But as far as when you look at the consistency in the sense, and obviously making that the Super Bowl run in this decade, so. But I think this is a different team. This Washington Commanders team, I think the leadership, their focus, they're gonna almost flip it where they ignore the noise. I think that's the beauty thing about this. They ignore the noise. I know when we played the Ravens, people wanted to make a big deal. Oh, it's about the Beltway, this and the third. This Washington Commanders team, I definitely think they have a legitimate shot to go into Philly and win this football game. But this is another one where this is really going to be a proving point, almost to kind of the Flo's point. And I understand kind of Flo. We always make that case, you really haven't played about it. But we played the schedule thus far. So it's to a point where this would be a great springboard for either whoever wins this football game. I think what Philly's doing, they're getting hot at the right time. I know, like I know you talked about as far as the issues with like Sirianni and what have you, but hey, it's November and you're on a 3-game winning streak, and this is what you want to play your best football this time of the year. And we can both say that these two teams have been playing good football in the right time. So this is kind of one of those. I think the Commanders can win this football game, but is definitely got it all together. Now, they haven't got it all together, but they're getting there. Then, as far as what we're going to do with Saquon Barkley, how we're going to be able to ball him up, can we force the turnovers? Will Marshawn Lattimore essentially be in this game? Because essentially this is kind of what we brought him here for, because we want him to go against either AJ or Devontae. And now, so it's kind of one of those things where this is why we ponied up on Tuesday and got, Marshawn for a game like this. So, like you said, I think same here for him. Control, time of possession, a strong running game, keep Jaden clean and give him opportunity so he can, he can run and also open up for others, and then that wide receiver core as well. So, maybe he can do something with the secondary. But yeah, the media, they hyping us up, but I think we have ignored the noise. Is week in, week out, it is business as usual. And I understand, like Flo's point, yeah, you beat the Carolina Panthers. We celebrated a little bit and then moved on to the next week. And even in those wins that, quote unquote, aren't the sexy wins or the wins that count, but week in and week out, it's a business as usual. There's no letdown. Even in those not so sexy wins, they're still week in and week out playing, and they're winning these football games. So I definitely got the Commanders winning and potentially winning 2 games in 4 days. And hey, Flo, if you coming in the Northwest on the 24th and we got a 5-game win streak, bring lunch, dinner, and a snack.
Oh, I just wanted to correct you real quick, sir. It's actually a 4-game winning streak.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Y'all got a 4. Yeah, that's right. We got a 3. That's right. Yeah.
Flo, floor is yours, sir.
Well, I know you guys are all this, hey, you play who you play, you don't make your schedule, blah, blah, blah. The fact is, who has Washington beaten? That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying you have to make up your own schedule. I'm just saying, who are they beating? And the good teams they played that were on their schedule that they didn't make, they didn't beat. And so I think Philadelphia's had a tougher schedule. And I think the fact that you can run on Washington a little bit, and I think hopefully the Eagles will be coming off a loss. So they'll be wanting to win this game even more so.
I like how you slid that in there.
That's where I see where I'm going. See, they'll be coming off a loss, and so I think they'll be wanting to win this game even more. And the fact that I think, like I said, Barkley is y'all's MVP to me, and I think he's going to be able to run these guys. Washington's 29th against the run, and they haven't stopping too many. They haven't played I don't know. I have to look. I was going to say I haven't played great running backs, but Saquon is going to have a good game, and they're going to want to come back and have some revenge after losing to the Cowboys. That's going to leave a sour taste in their mouth. So I feel like the Eagles are going to come back and want to win this game, and I think that it's going to bring the Washington Commanders down just a notch, bring them back to earth just a little bit, and I think the Eagles win a close one. I think it's not going to be I just think the key for the Eagles is to be ahead at halftime, because the Commanders are 6-0 when they're leading at halftime. So the Eagles need to be ahead and have the Commanders down going into halftime, and then come out and then punch them in the mouth again and win this game in Philly. You thought you knew what I was going to say, right?
No, I knew what you were going. I did know what you were going to say. I knew exactly what you were going to say.
You knew I was going to pick.
Even the whole part about they're going to be mad because they're going to lose on Sunday. I knew they were going to say.
Oh, come on! Get out of here. You didn't know that. That's why you laughed so big. That's why you laughed so hard.
Yeah, because I knew. I was like, this dude. Go ahead, Sal.
Hey, nothing wrong with being confident in your team, even if it's possibly a little misplaced. That's okay. If there's a game on our schedule this season that scares me, it's probably an opponent on our schedule this season that really scares me is Washington. I never envisioned that Jaden Daniels would come out this hot. I always thought that he was going to need a year kind of struggling through it to get to the point where he was going to be a quality quarterback. I've always kind of been a fan of his and what he can do in terms of his style of play. But the fact that Washington has come out and been able to develop an offense that caters to his strengths the way they have in year one is honestly pretty impressive. So that worries me. The Eagles defense hasn't done the greatest job so far of producing pressure, especially on quarterbacks that can move around a little bit. And Jaden Daniels is probably the most mobile quarterback we've faced all season, which, again, is going to be a little bit of a concern. So I think we have the personnel to defend him should our defensive coordinator, put our guys in the best possible position to succeed in this game. But I do have concerns about, his ability to improvise and escape the pocket and make something happen when it looks like there's nothing there to be made. So that is one big concern for me. We've talked about it at length. I'm not going to spend a whole bunch of time on it in this particular game, but Nick Sirianni is going to rear his ugly head at some point in this game as well, and he's going to keep it close. And this could definitely be the type of game where those decisions come back to bite us and result in a loss. I think Washington right now is too good of a team for us to let them hang around if we get a lead, and that's a big if currently. So, that's my biggest concern right there is, we've been making these head-scratching decisions left, right, and center all season long. So can we avoid that? Can we get pressure on Jaden Daniels? I really think that we match up well with our wide receivers. So it is going to depend a lot on Daniel's legs and ability to move the pocket and extend plays. So that's definitely going to be a huge concern. I want to say the Eagles are going to win this one, but I'm concerned that's my confidence in my team and not necessarily what ends up happening. So it would not shock me to see the Eagles win a close game. It would shock me if this is a blowout either direction, but it would not shock me to see the Washington win either.
So who are you picking?
My heart says the Eagles. My brain says it might be the Commanders. So I think I'm going to go with the Eagles, but again, that's my heart speaking, not my brain. So we know how those decisions typically go.
So the last good running back that the Commanders played was the Ravens, and they lost. So I feel like they haven't really played any good. The one before that was the Buccaneers, who have a decent running game, a 1-2 punch, and they lost that game too. So
that's not a bad point to make.
I just want to say two quick things. The team that on my schedule that scares me the most is the Baltimore Ravens, not the Commanders.
Okay.
For me, I'm not saying this sounds wrong. I'm just telling you my thoughts. Also, our games have been tight with the Commanders for the last couple of years when they were bad. So if you have tight games with a team when they're, it's certain teams that just you either can't beat or you're always playing tight. And for us, always playing tight has been the Commanders, even when they were bad the last couple of years. So I think that this is the time to, try to get some comeuppance. And it's up to us to make sure they don't get it this week. So, or next Thursday. So, that's what we got to do. But guys,
coming off a loss, you're gonna be hungry.
This guy. Guys, any last thoughts before we get out of here?
Hey, just for me, catch us on Sundays, Sunday Surge. We recap all your NFL action, 6:30 Central, 7:30 Eastern. We'll catch up, me and the guys, recap all your action, and preview Sunday night, Monday Night Football at the Bottom Line Sports on all your platforms.
Very nice.
Just go right there. That's all you gotta do.
I was gonna say no big thoughts from me, but definitely check out all of our content at Shady Sports Network. We constantly have stuff coming out, and including a lot of great content from Cool. Thank you very much for everything you do for us, Cool. I really appreciate that. And also, if you haven't done so already, I highly recommend that you subscribe to these other guys' channels. I mean, they're great content creators, enjoyable stuff that they make every single week. And honestly, I think we have probably one of the greatest panels, of any real podcast in this scenario. So I think that you guys are very lucky. We're very lucky to have these guys here. So definitely check them out. Subscribe, like, comment, do all that fun stuff.
Yeah, even the Cowboys guy.
I show up even when I don't want to. Hey, I'll take it.
Oh man,
I've been taking it
I
all
feel
year.
it. I feel it.
You know they rough on
I've
us,
taken
man.
it some years before.
Rough
I've had to
on the
take it some years
Cowboys
before,
when we lose.
and I'll have to take it again at some point. It is what it is.
But they
Any
rough
last
on
words,
us.
Couch? You good?
Yeah, so once again, great show. Pretty much website couchcoachlive.com. It has essentially our podcast and our articles that we publish. So just one stop shop, couchcoachlive.com.
And by the way, on Wednesday, you can catch Couch Coach. He'll be on Eagles Elite around 9 p.m.
Okay, I'll hit you up though.
He just finding out. We do this every year though.
Right.
Every year we do stuff at the last minute. We do this every year. But
yeah.
Y'all appreciate everybody just watching the show, supporting the show, sharing the show, all that good stuff, man. We really love doing this because it gives us a chance to really talk about the best division of football. Only division that every team has a Super Bowl. Facts. That's not fiction. That's not feelings. That's factual. Somebody else gets there, maybe. But until then, make sure you tell 4 people that may not like you and 4 people that do like you. Just because they do or don't like you doesn't mean they won't like us. And it's never where you start. It is always where you finish. That being said, we out.